Hey, good morning. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, Massachusetts, America's hometown. So I want to talk to you tonight, but Tucker Carlson in his brand new network, he's kind of like the new king of all media. Sorry, Howard Stern. And so we're going to get into a little Tucker Carlson media rollout, which is fantastic. Really excellent. I mean, he's just been coming out with one video after the other, very orchestrated, just like a media blitz of this whole new Tucker Carlson network. I want to get into that today. Before I do, I also want to just bring you this kind of breaking story out of Ukraine. You know, the democracy that we're saving over there with our billions of dollars of support. So I'm not going to play this whole video, but I want to just kind of give you a quick look at it. So there's this video apparently over in Ukraine. Let's see if we can kind of get this up here on the screen correctly. There we go here. That is breaking news right now. And what it is, and it's warning, we're not going to play the whole thing because I'll probably get banned by YouTube or something, even though this video is on YouTube. A man walks into like a city council meeting and literally throws a grenade. And I think he kills at least one person, several people, many people injured. We'll just give you a quick clip here. Breaking news. Yep, warning, considering. So here he is. So I don't know if you can hear in the background, but here it is. They blurred the faces. But there's people arguing at a city council meeting, and then this guy walks in the door. All right, so I mean, could be like a city council hearing almost anywhere, right? Even here in beautiful Plymouth, people arguing over some local issue. This happens to be in Ukraine, as we said. Can't even pronounce it. Kursk, is that how you say it? Keep an eye on the hands of the guy by the door. Out comes literally a grenade. He's got like a grenade. All right, you can see them in his hands. And we won't play the video anymore beyond that because you can guess what happens next. And people diving for cover right after that. It's just, it's amazing. But this is the democracy that we are saving in Ukraine, where people actually go to city council hearings and blow things up. Yeah. So absolutely shocking out of Ukraine. Just absolutely amazing. I'm just stunned by what I just saw there, as obviously everybody else is as well. Here in the United States, or at least here back in, hold on a second, I just want to bring this up for you. Why can't I find it for you? Back in the United States, talking about municipal politics for that matter, is the continued controversy relative to our mayor here in Boston, which has just been an absolute train wreck. You know, Boston does have this national reputation for being a racist location, as you may have heard before. But now, basically, the racism has been reversed. And last night on Gutfeld, Gutfeld seems to have recently grown a spine, because recently he just actually backed up Tucker. He actually said Tucker's name on Fox News, which I think is the first time since Tucker was like fired that they actually mentioned his name. Like he's like the Grady Little of Fox News, the manager whose name can't be spoken. And Red Sox illusion, forget about it if you don't know. And last night, Gutfeld just in the whole basically cast of the Gutfeld show just blew away Michelle Wu, our racist mayor here in Boston. Let's see if we can bring that up for you here. Slide this over here. Should have had that queued up a little bit. There we go here. So here's the Gutfeld show from last night.
Okay.
And that's Tyrus. He's going to have the Black Zone box put over his spot.
That reaction is what's wrong with America. I have a black zone, no whitey area, and 99.9% of the audience is white tonight. And they said, yay, good for you. We can't come in your fort.
It's a fort.
And guess what?
What?
It's lonely in here.
Mm-hmm.
She's married to a white man. I just like to point that out, too. Are we sure this is not a ploy because your husband's the guy who drinks too much and ruins the party? Because I'm always told you can't come to things because there's no tattooed people allowed.
And you know what? They say it was a +1. And she probably could tell her husband, you can't come, you're white.
And here's the thing. Nobody wants to ever have a Christmas party without white guys.
Yeah.
They're the ones who do all the stupid you talk about for the rest of the year. Like, who do you think's the guy who's going to get on the Xerox machine? Not us.
All right, so it continues.
Cow tipping was invented by goofy, drunk white guys at Christmas parties. So, see? So, idiot. If I had a black-only Christmas party, me, Charles Payne.
So, not being from Massachusetts, you might not realize what's going to happen next in Massachusetts. So, the Boston Globe has done a really good job, although they did run a piece today explaining what you needed to know. But they've done a really good job of leaving this story behind, of not talking about it. Very, very fun. Gutfeld last night. I'm strongly recommending that you watch that, Gutfeld. But they've done a really good job at leaving this story behind. And so what will happen next is there will be a story explaining how she's the victim, because it's just going to be a matter of time, 2 or 3 days, and the Globe will soon come out with understanding, setting everyone straight, that she is the victim here. Remember the victim pyramid, which actually last week, Matt Walsh explained, or earlier this week, Matt Walsh explained the victim pyramid. And I think it's good to, kind of come back to it, because it's not a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before Michelle Wu is that we're reminded that she's really the victim here of the evil press, mostly by white people, right? She's the victim. Let Matt Walsh explain how this is going to work.
The victim hierarchy, you understand everything. And so you need to understand how it works. So we're going to run through it today, this kind of tutorial, which will tell you everything you need to know about leftism and about our culture by extension. Now, the victim hierarchy is a pyramid. You could also call it the victim pyramid, VH or VP. It's up to you. At the base of the pyramid, you have white men. That's the lowest ranking. They cannot be victimized by anyone, and yet they victimize everyone else. We have to understand that victimization flows up on the pyramid, so it's a little counterintuitive. The higher you are on the pyramid, the more victimized you are, and yet the more powerful you are.
The higher you are on the pyramid, the more victim you are, but the more powerful you are. Okay, tell me more, Matt.
Now, next you have white women, and they're still pretty low on the ranking, but they can at least be victimized by white men. So they have 1 victim point. Victim points are determined by how many other groups can victimize you. So you can tally a group's victim points simply by counting how many groups are underneath them on the pyramid. It makes it very easy to do. Now, flowing up from there, right above white women, we have disabled people. Now,
all right, so if I understand it, white men like me are both the perpetrators and also the least powerful. Okay, now I get it now. All right, thank you, Matt. It was a little difficult to understand because I'm just a white man who can't think straight. But I was watching this video that Tucker released this morning. So Tucker released this video, and it's just an absolute kind of nutshell of what we deal with here in Massachusetts. Remember, here in Massachusetts, that almost all of our major elected officials are women, and almost all white women. We are here in Massachusetts dominated by liberal white women, almost all from the suburbs. So wealthy liberal white women, almost all from the suburbs, or elite in some way, like Michelle Wu went to Harvard. Yeah, what a coincidence. You saw that coming, didn't you? So whether it's the mayor or the governor or the lieutenant governor or several other of the constitutional offices, that's what it's like. So here in Massachusetts, here is Tucker in a video that he released this morning at 6 a.m. Showing what it's like to live with these deranged white wealthy women here. Rich white ladies pay $5,000 to be told they're naughty little racist. What is that? Jason Whitlock knows.
So the night begins with the white ladies introducing themselves and conceding that they are the worst people in the world because they are white. Watch.
I am a liberal white woman. We are absolutely the most dangerous women out there. We are the most dangerous women that exist because we're
living in Massachusetts. I can tell you that that's probably true.
We're gonna love a little more because we're good freaking people. No, we are erasing their experiences. We are erasing their lives. We are erasing the danger that they're in.
I'm an artist and a barista.
I'm an artist and a barista. Understand why white women feel this way. The reason why wealthy white women from the suburbs, like from Hingham and Duxbury and Acton and Concord, which are all lily white places in Massachusetts, why they feel this way is because they know that they actually benefit from a racist system. We live effectively in an apartheid in Massachusetts. And it's true. And that this apartheid is almost completely created and enforced by far left policies because they have more or less been in control for the last 50 or 60 years, the Democrat Party here in Massachusetts. Sure, we've had some Republican governors, but we've really only had one like real Republican governor recently, and that was Governor Weld back in the 90s. Governor Romney was of the Romney Party, right? He's out for himself. And Governor Baker, well, I was a big proponent of him in the very beginning. He ended up being a big government advocate, right? Big government advocate. So these folks, these white wealthy women from the suburbs, they live and benefit from the way society is structured, and they're feeling tremendously guilty about that. And so they want to impose their guilt upon you. Here they are. Here's Lori. She works as a barista.
And I learned about this through Syra, through your Facebook. The reason I'm here is because I've always thought of myself as being like kind of woke. And I mean, my best friend is Mexican.
You can never be woke enough. Oh, her best friend is Mexican.
My partner is biracial. We have these conversations all the time. But then through following your posts and interacting on your posts, I realized I'm not doing that great. And I feel like there's a racist white man living in my brain, and it's my dad's voice.
Here's Tucker's response.
I hate my dad. Of course. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
But the best is white women, we're the most dangerous people in the world. So, of course, that's not true. The silliest people in the world, for sure. The most.
Except, Tucker, I'm going to have to disagree with, except when they actually become like your U.S. senator, like when Elizabeth Warren is your U.S. senator, yeah, then they become the most dangerous people in the world.
Dangerous, hardly. Watch that. What do you think that means?
This is
what do you make of
tease, effectively,
I see
for the Tucker Carlson Network, and Jason Whitlock comes on to share some wisdom thereafter. The Tucker Carlson Network has just been launched, and it's an amazing thing. So if you look here, Tucker now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 or so different types of content. There's the uncensored, I think, is breaking news. The encounter is just click encounter. Tucker goes off grid for in-depth conversations with celebrities, intellectuals, politicians, and even regular people. So here is the Kyle Rittenhouse interview that just dropped the other day. Dave Grosh is the UFO whistleblower. Not my type of story, but John Daly, I got to go listen to that, right? He looks like Santa Claus in that picture, doesn't he? There's so many different video formats. And I think, that's an important concept here, the video format. The Ask Tucker tease that they put out the other day, which is now locked, was basically, how do you avoid getting in a fight? It was like personal advice with your drunk father-in-law on Christmas dinner or whatever it was. And look at the price for this thing. It's $6 a month. That's tremendously reasonable. I mean, it's just, I'm going to sign up today. Unlock countless hours of exclusive content with Tucker Carlson and his team. It's time to build an alternative to legacy media, and you can help do it. It's time they stopped hiding the truth from you. We'll expose them together. Great kind of benefit statement there. And unlimited access to 5 brand new shows, speeches, and films from Tucker Carlson. Premium investigative reports, exclusive behind the scenes looks at Tucker's interviews, access to Tucker's personal inbox to ask him anything on your mind as part of a weekly Ask Tucker episode. So what a business this is going to be for Tucker Carlson. As he said last week or earlier this week, time flies when you get fired. Here he is with his announcement of the Tucker Carlson Network.
It's Tucker Carlson. We've been out of work for 7 or 8 months now. Hard to know. Time flies when you're unemployed.
Not clear to me whether or not he's still getting paid by Fox. I think he's literally still getting paid by Fox.
But actually, we have been working in secret and producing an awful lot of material for months now, interviews, etc. And all of it has now found its way to tuckercarlson.com. We're launching a brand new thing very soon, and we'd love for you to see it. So go to tuckercarlson.com to see it first.
So that is the announcement. And then yesterday, he went and trolled. He bought or rented one of these signage truck things, and he rolled the truck up in front of a lot of media outlets like CNN, Washington Post, and the New York Times. This is probably my favorite picture here, where the truck is outside of the New York Times office. So this picture is taken across the street from the bus stations directly across the street, right? Port Authority bus stop is directly across the street, and New York Times looked down on it. And the truck probably wasn't there for more than 3 or 4 minutes just in order to get the picture. They took it over to NBC. The only place I didn't see the truck was in front of the Fox News studios on, 6th Avenue. Did not see the truck in front of 6th Avenue. He probably couldn't put it there and mock his own, because technically I think he's still employed there. So he probably could not mock Fox News while he's technically still an employee there. I'm guessing that would have probably screwed up some type of legal situation. But once that legal situation is finally over, then I imagine the truck will come back to 6th Avenue to Fox Plaza. So for all of you who were paying for the Fox streaming service, whatever that Fox streaming service thing is called, for whoever was paying for the Fox streaming service, there's really no reason for you to pay for that. You should just cancel that and sign up for the Tucker service for $6. I was never a Fox streaming service subscriber, but I will be a Tucker Carlson subscriber by the end of the day. Yesterday afternoon, just about 6 p.m., he drops this
in August of 2020,
Kyle
in
Rittenhouse
Kenosha, Wisconsin,
tidbit.
an industrial town in that state. And riots had broken out after the death of George Floyd. And at the time, a lot of people imagined these were a direct response to George Floyd's murder. But of course, they weren't. The entire thing was orchestrated, and the people you saw rioting were, in fact, militia working on behalf of the Democratic Party with funding from some of the richest people in the United States. The whole thing had a political purpose. And of course, that was achieved in the end, beating Donald Trump or getting him out of office. But at the time, in the middle of that chaos, almost nobody, and that would include the local police department, stood up to defend the town of Kenosha. And so that job was left to, among just a few others, a teenager called Kyle Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse showed up in Kenosha that night in August to defend a car lot that its owner thought would be burned. So Rittenhouse showed up with nobody else, with a rifle to defend this lot. During that riot, several people tried to murder Kyle Rittenhouse, including a recently released mental patient who had a history of raping children, who tried to seize Kyle Rittenhouse's rifle and kill him with it. And he was not the only one who tried to do that. Kyle Rittenhouse defended himself with force and survived. For doing that, he was charged with murder.
All right, so you know the Kyle Rittenhouse story from there. That video from Tucker has 2.9 million views. It was just released last night at 6 o'clock. And what clearly the business model here is for Tucker to use X, or you know what X is, Twitter 2.0, to use X as a marketing tool. So Tucker's going to release tidbits. That video actually is more like a half an hour, but he's going to release tidbits of interviews on X to drive traffic to tuckercarlson.com and therefore get you to subscribe for the $6 a month. I mean, come on, for $6 a month, that's like a no-brainer. It is a great value proposition. You know, I was listening to My First Million podcast just a while back, and they were talking about one of my favorite real estate websites, Resi Club, and the guy that is the finance behind it said, you know, when you start something like this, you want to start it at a value proposition that makes it successful. So you don't want to ask for $20 or $25, $30 a month. No, you start at $6, for instance, and when you're there, you get a volume. You can then monetize that audience further from there. But also, you know, when you're talking about an audience like Tucker has, which is nationwide, at $6 times, I mean, how many subscribers do you think he's going to get? You know, it's going to be big bucks. And obviously with the product that he's putting out, he has a significant team that he has to pay for. But at this point, there seems to be no doubt that that's going to be successful for him. In the meantime, people continue to look to Tucker to demonize him. And some of the people that have also been demonized with him are, according to the Bulwark, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump Jr., and Elsie Stefanik. You remember her? She's the one that had the questioning in Congress with the college presidents. And also Christopher Rufo. And so Christopher Russo put this out. Charlie Sykes is a 69-year-old man who's been reduced to writing listicles for the Bulwark. Anyway, I'm proud to be recognized along these folks here, who I just listed, as the deplorables of the year. 2023 dishonorable mentions presented by the Bulwark. So, yeah, Christopher Rufo has been all over the media this year. He's been all over this Michelle Wu situation. And he has been reminding us, of course, that earlier this year, Harvard had separate graduation ceremonies for all sorts of different affinity groups. Understand that affinity group, you've heard other people say this, affinity group is a different way to basically affect segregation, right? And they had different graduations for different affinity groups, but not for white people and certainly not for Jewish people at Harvard. Of course not. So let's take a look at the Nets and see what they're talking about at the moment. Let's take a look at Fed rates because that's
going to see how the market kind of how market evolves here. But right now, it's going according to plan.
John, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this question. If we were having this discussion 6 weeks ago, it'd be an entirely different question, which was about how tight their financial conditions were helping policy. President. Right now, as a result of what happened Wednesday, financial conditions are much looser. Is that a problem for making policy? Are you concerned about the effect of looser financial conditions on inflation coming down?
Well, if you look at 10-year yields, especially the broader financial conditions, they tightened a lot from July to October or so, more than kind of was easy to understand given what was happening in the economy. they've loosened, not just because of recent events, but because of the data flow. I think, again, it gets back to this point that, the markets are responding, kind of much more to the data flow and events than is normal. We have to just read through that a bit, look for what are the persistent components of maybe financial conditions.
All right, so understand what, by the way, Leisman has told us that this interview was set up 6 months ago. It just so happens that it also comes immediately after the Fed pivot from Wednesday. And understand what the Fed pivot was all about. The Fed pivot was all about the number one job of the Fed. And this is not partisan. This is the same whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in office. The number one job of the Fed is to get the president reelected, whoever the president is. And that's exactly what their strategy is for next year. I thought they would come out and kind of pivot sometime in the spring, but now they just kind of fast forwarded that and decided to pivot now. And this means that the party is back on for or until the end of the election. So once the election's over, then the chickens will come home to roost. How many times have you seen this before where everything is great until literally the election? We wake up the next morning, you're like, whoa, what have we done with our financial situation? And that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, everything is going to be pretended and extended. And then the day after the election, no matter who wins, the chickens are going to start to come home to roost. And they've signaled the reduction of rates for next year via the, dot plot thing. And it appears as if Powell has lost the locker room, so to speak, and that the players, meaning the members of the Fed, are kind of pushing Powell, even though he may or may not want to do this. So all of it really reveals the insanity of the system that we have. We have, this ruling class in Washington, D.C., who think that they're smarter than us, and more importantly, think that they're smarter than the market, that they can tell what the economy is going to do, that they can make decisions about the economy that the market itself could not make. In other words, what I'm trying to say is, so many people look at the Federal Reserve, like Elizabeth Warren, and they say to themselves, oh, I could do a much better job if I was the Fed chairman. And I look at the Fed chairman's job and I ask, why are they doing it at all? Why do we have a bunch of people that went to a bunch of elite schools and got all this education? Why do we have them actually thinking, the hubris of it all, really thinking that they're smarter than the infinite number of decisions that take place in the marketplace on a daily basis? Why don't we just have the market set the interest rates? Right? Why don't we just have that happen? In other words, I don't want to sound like a crazy man, but beginning to think that the whole end the Fed strategy is a pretty good strategy. That's all I'm saying, right? You're beginning to think that, why don't we just get rid of the Fed? That sounds like a good strategy to me. Interesting story out of Turkey the other day. This guy here, he's giving some type of anti-Israel speech. He's a member of parliament, or was a member of parliament. Hassan Bismet spoke out strongly against Israel and shouted about Israeli suffering the wrath of Allah. Seconds later, he had a heart attack. You can see he's like, uh-oh, watch out. Boom. And they cut the mic, and I know you're going to be sorry to hear that, but a member of parliament, Hassan Bismet, he didn't make it. He expired at the hospital. Yeah, so sorry to hear. Next up, your privacy rights, stuff that actually matters. We sold you out. 147 Republicans joined the Democrats to defy liberty-loving Americans. yet again, according to American Wire. GOP-led House. Now, first off, is it really a GOP-led House? Because I'm not too sure anymore, because it seems as if it's more like a Democrat-led House. Delivered coal in America's stockings as they passed a massive $886 billion defense bill before leaving on a holiday break. Yeah, let's spend $1 billion. Or almost. Democrats successfully rammed through the $886 billion National Defense Authorization Act on Thursday, and Republicans helped them do it. Somehow they forgot to put the B in that letter, that sentence there. Despite many in the GP openly opposing the sprawling bill that passed by a 310 to 118 vote with 147 yes votes from Republicans. More Dems vote to pass the annual Pentagon spending bill than Republicans. Look at that. Look at that. We had 163 Dems vote yes and 147 Dems vote no. All we really needed was another 20 votes against it, and we could have stopped this thing. So only 45 Democrats and 75 Republicans had the backbone to vote no on a bill which the Senate passed on Wednesday. It now heads to President Biden's desk. Here are the 118 representatives who voted to protect your right to privacy, according to Congressman Thomas Massie. And so what they're talking about is the warrantless surveillance, which theoretically is only for foreign individuals, not for American individuals. But, come to think of it, now that I remember, wasn't there a situation where Tucker was actually surveilled with the FISA warrant? Am I right? I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. I have a pretty good recollection on that. House and Senate negotiators released the compromise version of the Defense Act last week, stripping out the ban on the Defense Department's abortion policy and the prohibition on Pentagon funding for gender-affirming care. So the Republicans, the real Republicans, had a ban for Pentagon funding of gender-affirming care. Why would the Pentagon be funding gender-affirming care at all? And can we stop calling it gender-affirming care? It's not gender-affirming care. You're only born with one of two genders. That's it. And if you want to get your surgery, you pay for that yourself. Don't make the American taxpayer pay for that. It's ridiculous. So here are the 140 DC Drano, 147 so-called Republicans who just voted to reauthorize FISA 702 program, which was used illegally to spy on President Trump and I think also Tucker Carlson. Their votes deserve answers and maybe primaries as well. Unsustainable. So, Charlie Kirk, Republican leaders are playing with fire. You cannot terrorize a citizenry and make them poor each day and expect them to obey. Well, actually, Charlie, that is the strategy. Republican leaders are complicit in an international downfall of America. Yeah, so that's why, you have this uniparty situation where when you say Republican-led Congress, it really isn't. It's like a uniparty-led Congress. Here's Brian Sullivan, my friend, congratulating Thomas Massie, and coming from Massachusetts, which at the moment is the butt of a million jokes. It's refreshing to see my new congressman, Russell Fry from South Carolina, making the votes I align with, win or lose. Russell Fry, let's give him a shout out here. GOP congressman for South Carolina, 07, husband, dad, soccer game on point, 8th grade ping pong championship, former chief whip in the South Carolina House, America First, Trump endorsed Russell Fry. Good for you, Russell, and thank you for voting the way you did on this bill. We only needed about 20 more votes here. We needed 143, and we got 118. So somebody did the math. I think 25 votes. I think we were off. In order to bring this bill to a grinding halt, they missed out because so many Republicans voted with the Democrats. Way to go, Republicans, so-called Republicans. Owen Schroyer, 1776, is out. He is out of prison, and fortunately, we have a interview with him. We're not going to play the whole thing. Don't worry about it. And you can subscribe to see the full interview on Rumble tonight. So this is another kind of business model where they give you a taste of the interview, and you're hopefully going to get more of it at Rumble. Let's just listen in for a second.
Well, this seems to be the
Brianna
overall
Morello.
theme, and that's I've accomplished now a lot of first evers. As far as we can tell, that's myself, my lawyer, and pretty much everybody that was in the prison, from longtime inmates to longtime BOP workers at all different levels inside the prison. I'm the first person to ever be in a federal prison for a misdemeanor. First ever. Nobody's ever heard of that. Now, as far as what they, well, let me be clear here. When I first got in, I spent a week in solitary confinement for quarantine for COVID. So they're still doing that nonsense. And I don't know how that's even legal that they're still doing that. But I'd first go in, quarantine 7 days for COVID. Now, when I got out, I got access to a phone. I made a call to a gentleman that manages some of my social media and just keeps in touch with friends and family. And I said, hey, as many people may have heard in the phone call, I'm free from solitary. I appreciate all the mail that I've gotten, including a couple letters from you, Brianna. And I thank you very much for that, as well as your other steadfast effort. We can talk about that more specifically in a moment. And because somehow, I guess, it bothered somebody, because that call was recorded and went viral on the internet, they threw me back into confinement. It's called the SHU, the Special Housing Unit. SHU is what you call it when you're in the prison. That's kind of the slang, if you will. And that's where I remained for the majority of my stay. Now, what they do is they hit you with what's called a shot. Now, normally these are reserved for people that stab people, start fights, start riots, bring in contraband, drugs, cigarettes, what have you. That's normally the type of people that get a shot. But just like I was the first person that they've ever heard of getting to federal prison for a misdemeanor, many people, they say this is the first person we've ever heard of that's gone to the SHU for a phone call like this. Now, there are some phone abuse offenses that you can commit, like you can't pass back a phone. This is how people will get around some communications restrictions. You have a specific number that you have to use when you use the phone before you can even get connected. And so there is a violation if you use your number to give somebody else the phone. That is a well-known violation that some people.
All right, so this is a really interesting interview. If you want to know more about Owen and his time in prison as an offender, I strongly recommend it. And well, let's move on from there, because as we just talked about the deal in Congress for the Defense Authorization Act, it appears that there could be another deal in the making for Ukraine money and border money. Now, we have got to stand up and have a situation where we have got to vote on these things one way or the other. One way or the other. In other words, you have a vote on a border bill and a vote on the Ukraine bill. No more tying these things together. No more unibus, omnibus, everything rolled up in one. Have a vote on a policy and then let the policy live or die based upon democracy rather than rolling everything into some type of omnibus bill. So unfortunately, we have this report out of Politico. Christian Simona, or however you say her name, can see the deal on the Ukraine border deal as Schumer cuts recess. A few days ago, so this is from late yesterday afternoon, talks to link border security restrictions with Ukraine funding were stalled. But Thursday afternoon, Schumer felt they made enough progress to shorten the chamber's beloved recess. Heaven forbid they'd actually, have to come back to work. Border discussions are still exceedingly complicated, and there's no guarantee that negotiators, including the Biden administration, Senate leaders, can cinch a deal, but Democrats felt leaving for a 3-week recess was too dangerous given their uncertainty ahead on Ukraine. After hours and hours of talks this week, Sinema said things were moving. I can see a deal. But we have a lot to do to get there, but I can see it. There was a time when we were not making progress, which is great. I hope they don't make any progress. Understand that what they're trying to do basically here is say, oh, you give us money for Ukraine, we'll give you some crumbs for our border protection. Understand that we shouldn't be giving any money to Ukraine. And if we have money to spend, which we don't anyways, because we're running massive deficits, if we had money to spend, we should do it at our own border. We should do it at our own border. To tie these two things together is insanity, is absolutely insane, and shows the dichotomy of like who's more concerned about what border. The Democrats, the Uniparty, are more concerned about the Ukrainian border, and very few people are actually concerned about our border, which I've been fortunate to visit last year when I was driving back from Arizona, and I visited the border in multiple locations in Texas, down in the Big Bend sector, over to Langtree, Del Rio, Eagle Pass, and it's like nothing. You can't even believe the level of federal government and state government resources on a daily basis. It's staggering what's going on down at our border, and yet the Biden administration just continues to let it happen. It's absolutely, positively ridiculous. Talking about the Biden administration, The Hill was out with a story the other day asking, will Jill Biden save the Democrats? It's an opinion piece. And the question was, could Jill Biden somehow convince Joe Biden not to run for president next year? And I'm going to tell you that based upon this video, I don't think Jill Biden is capable of convincing Joe Biden not to run next year. Have you seen this? This is some dance troupe dancing the Nutcracker. What is that guy with the flower on his head? What? Who is that? I can't even make it stop. God. Good news, though. Hunter has told Politico, or it's been covered in this Politico piece, that should Trump win next year, Hunter might have to flee the country. So there is a silver lining here. Yeah, there is a silver lining. I mean, it is possible that Biden doesn't run. I think that's still possible, that he doesn't run. And I think it's still possible that actually Trump is not the nominee. Although, of course, right now he's highly favored as the nominee, as he should be, right? I mean, when you look at the policies from his presidential 4 years, I mean, and where the country was, if you're going to run a campaign, you have to ask the most essential question. Every presidential campaign comes down to this question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And notwithstanding the mountain of government statistics that come out, the simple fact of the matter is your average American is not better off now than they were 4 years ago. And even though the Biden administration has leaned on the Fed to kind of open up the spigot again to do everything possible to get Biden elected, because that's their number one job, right? To reelect the incumbent, no matter who they are. People are not better off than they were 4 years ago. And I think if Trump just goes out and makes that case, as he has been, then he can do very, very well. And I think that as he gets stronger and as he continues to win the primaries, which is he's expected to win, then I think the whole legal situation will begin to crumble as a literally becomes something where you cannot legally go after the number one not candidate from the number one or the number two, one of the top two candidates for president. It's going to become, the legal aspect is going to become unsustainable, and that will crumble as Trump begins to win next year. That's kind of my look at it, unless he decides to bow out. And if he decides to bow out, I think that's why a lot of people are putting a lot of chips on Nikki Haley right now, because she is the uniparty nominee, right? She's the party of the Rhino. And for me, if it's not Trump, it's the next choice for me seems to be really easy, and that's Vivek, right? For me, at least. All right, so that is the show for today. I'm John F. Gately calling into you, or broadcasting to you from Plymouth, America's hometown. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.